So, Doctor Who, Series 13, Episode 5, Chapter 5, Survivors of the Flux. I actually watched it earlier than normal by a little bit because I thought I'll have more energy to talk about it. But I don't even have the energy, it's so... Okay, Episode 1 was intriguing, a bit naff, but I thought at least it's building up. Bits that don't make any sense, and it's like, that's a bit rubbish because even if they ultimately do make sense later on. You don't want to have an episode where you reach the end and say it doesn't make any sense unless it's really well done, and it wasn't, of course. Episode 2, Chapter 2, generally better received. It's okay. I don't know, to be honest, I didn't think it was that great. There's that odd bit where the two of them, where the Doctor and probably Dan are talking about stuff in synchronization, several sentences in a row, and you just think it's the Midnight Monster has possessed them. Terrible. Episode it's okay though. Episode 3. What was that one again? Jesus Christ. Episode 3 was Once Upon a Time. I heard a lot of people say it was the worst ever, but that happens every series. Daleks in Manhattan considered the worst ever when it was broadcast. Sleep No More, a lot of people said was the worst ever. Hellbent is, Timeless Children, whatever it's called. Yeah. Not the Child of Time, the comic strip. Yes, it happens every time, whatever. But I thought it was, okay, a bit naff, sort of 4 out of 10. I remember seeing one person, hearing people go on about how terrible the Daleks looked with the CGI, and I thought it wasn't that bad. I mean, apart from the fact you couldn't see the blue bit as they're flying, or the blue shimmer on their eye, shimmer, at the end of time. But that's, apparently shimmer in the end of time was spelt, I think it was spelled SCHIMMER rather than just SHIMMER, but because it's so similar to the actual word shimmer, it seemed very odd. It was like they were just pronouncing it bizarrely. I don't know, I thought he was just saying it like to sound a bit silly. But yes, Once Upon Time, pretty rubbish. No, the good thing about Waters and Harmon and Village of the Angels, of course, which was definitely the best last week, is they at least have characters and plot and stuff's going on, and there's a sense of build up and things happening in a pretty good structure. And so basically, it's like the odd numbered episodes are rubbish, the even numbered ones are good. So I went into this episode thinking it's gonna be naff, and it was worse than I thought. But to be honest, it wasn't the worst of all time. But I mean, you do start to think, could they even make an episode that I would then say is the worst ever? Unless they do something like racist or something, it's not going to be the worst ever. Wow, no. Talons of Wayne Trang is brilliant, by the way. Anyway, and Celestial Toymaker is rubbish. But anyway, so Survivors of the Flux. It was the worst episode of the series, of Series 13. Yes. Worst episode of Series 11, 12 or 13, maybe. I mean, the problem with this is it's all one story, so even if this one was rubbish, if the next one's a masterpiece, with spoiler warning, it's not going to be a masterpiece, then it would still not be that great, but because of the average across them all, I don't know what to say. See, I could probably click through, I've got it right here, I could probably go through it and find various mistakes and things, but to be honest, it's just like every single bit of it was rubbish. I can't really even bear myself. I could go on probably for several hours, but it was better to just let you know. I thought it was terrible. I thought the Ood looked rubbish. I guess they had the same Ood costume in series 2 and 4 and 6 and Pond Life. But for some reason here, I don't know, there was something about it that looked wrong. Like it was too clean. The head was too small. The ears came out too much instead of being little slits on the side. The sound with the light was a bit off. It all just, the voice was too high. And there all these little things. I just thought the Ood was off from how it had always been done before. I mean, they were Ood in series 9 even. I thought they looked better. I don't know. I think it's mainly was the head was too thin and going in a bit. It looked wrong. But, there's that. Okay, well if I just sort of look at the old preview stuff, I mean, typical Chibnall, lots of jumping between place to place with a name appearing in orange for some reason in a corner. At least it wasn't bamming on the screen like in series, Resolution. I wish that story was called Resolution of the Daleks, because now they'll never do a story called Resolution of the Daleks. They've wasted that one. But what do you expect? Anyway, yes, lots of that, so rubbish. I mean, it reminds me of Terry Nation, Keys Mariners, The Chase, but at least they had a reason to be jumping between them, and at least they did it, one story, one place. This is doing, or this is doing one story, or like I guess one part, parts 2 and 4 at least in sort of 1 or 2 places, and then this part and 3 just jumping all over the place for no real reason. It didn't make any sense. Lots of it, terrible, terrible dialogue. I thought, I mean, I can't name it exactly because I've only just watched it, I don't even remember. My brain is already erasing it from my mind. My brain is erasing it from my mind, yes. Well, that's the level we're talking here. I suppose. Well, it was just awful. Yes. Let's see. There was a scene where there were these people who I'd never seen before outside. Possibly one of them was that guy with the glasses, like the nostalgia critic. It was, what was it called? It was sort of like half the plot was the doctor and this woman in a room, and the other half was Yasmin, Daniel, and the other man whose name I don't know, walking around sort of doing random things. They go to the Great Wall of China at one point just to paint some stuff on the floor using the wall as like a line break. It was awful. What, they go all the way there just to write some stuff in paint, just to have someone look at it and complain about it. It was absolutely terrible. I assume it's supposed to be a reference to the fact that you can see it from space, but obviously that's not true. I mean, you can't see the Great Wall of China from the moon. You can probably see it from space, maybe if you're just about at the... No, I don't even think, even if you're at the lowest possible Earth orbit, like 36,000 kilometers above the surface, or above sea level or whatever, even then you probably wouldn't be able to see it. So, no, terrible. Completely awful. Yes, that scene where they were outside, standing in a little wintry field, absolutely ridiculous. No idea what was going on there. There was someone with like a gun, like he was going to shoot birds, and he keeps like turning around, and then at the very end of the scene he turned around and shot in the sky. I thought, why didn't they CGI a bird on to like get killed? It was just terrible. He didn't shoot at anything. Why can't they have establishing shots of the field? I thought the field with trees and no leaves, they must have filmed it last year. It looked quite nice, but because it keeps having camera shots of one person talking and then it's the opposite way around. I know that's how, dialogue is filmed generally. You've got one side of the people, then the other side, and it jumps from side to side showing the person who's talking. But they do it all the time, only ever doing that. You just think you could probably green screen the people on and they could be filmed anywhere. It looks so rubbish. I need to see the mud. There's no sense of that they're really standing in that place. It just all looks a bit off. But yes, it was terrible. What else have we got? Oh, typical. There was a bit on the boat where there was Yasmin and Daniel talking, and you just think, Chibnall, here we go, gonna have a slow character scene. So predictable. You just think, my God, like, I can tell you what's going to happen at this point. I don't know exactly, but it's going to be like, now we're going to have a really dull scene of them sitting there with some quiet piano music while they chat about some stuff for a moment. Just the most standard stuff you expect. It's like, series 12, Timeless Children. It's basically like that again. Even down to the bits at the end where we have... There was a fob watch. I mean, you think there's no way Chibnall would have come up with that if it hadn't already been used in Human Nature and probably again in Utopia. Well, Sound of Drums. If it hadn't been used again, he wouldn't have remembered it. But he would never have come up with that himself. That's too good of an idea. He would never... It's only because it was used before, for God's sake. And then I was thinking, here we go, the Varney or something. And no, it just turns out it's Tectayuno from series 12. I don't care. I mean, wasn't that episode completely hated by tons of people? Timeless Children. Those people said it was the worst ever and destroyed the programme. I mean, that's a bit silly. I mean, I don't think you can really destroy the programme in any meaningful way because you're not actually removing old episodes, are you? You can just... I always just think, ignore it. The continuity doesn't make any sense. Don't bother trying to stick it all together. Just ignore it if you don't like it, for God's sake. But for some reason, Chibnall insists of bullying his own vision into the programme, and I can't avoid it now because here's another episode going on about Tectayun and Timeless Children. I just don't care. There's a bit where the woman said something like, don't you have your own companions? You're sort of experimenting on them. Isn't that like how I did on you? And it's like, no, it isn't, because you were like, it was like killing the Doctor over and over again to work out how the regenerations work, Nothing like what the Doctor does with the companions whatsoever. Terrible comparison. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what she was trying to get at. And then they say, it's actually the Doctor's mother, like in Listen, or supposedly the End of Time Part 2, and Part 1, I suppose. Not that there was any absolute explanation or reasoning. I mean, that didn't make much sense. But for God's sake, it's like, how can we make people care about it? Oh, let's just say it's the Doctor's mother. Just throw in any old thing if it makes people interested. Just say, yeah, it's about the history of the Time Lords, and suddenly people are supposed to care. The bit when they're going on, oh, the Doctor's being tempted about learning about her past. I just think I don't care. Go to another planet. Go and have an adventure in a cave with some torches and giant clams attacking you. You know, go back to Andrew's Island. No, don't. But for God's sake, it's so rubbish. Why can't we just have some adventures on different planets? Why do we have to do this stupidity? Still going on about the timeless child. I can't believe how bad it is. Anyway, and so honestly, it's amusing how terrible it is. It's predictable. It's awful. Anyway, so and then we've got the old villains with the flipping nose with the thing in the way. You know, those two people standing there, those aliens from the other episodes, just sort of blowing around doing nothing. There was a bit where there were a load of people in the room, and then they were saying, you're our playthings and our power source. It's just like, no idea what's going on there. I mean, what am I supposed to know what's going on, considering half the time they don't explain it, and half the time it doesn't make sense, and then they do explain it, and it's still not really going to make sense. Why do I bother? Why do I even try to care? And so, and what else have we got? I mean, nice stuff with Unit. I thought Kate looked a bit weird in this, because they kept showing her from the side. It was like a rip-off, honestly. Stuff about Unit, well, at least they were in it, sort of. It was a sort of fake brigadier old man guy in it. And then the evil guy with the sort of greyish hair with a bit of white. You just think immediately he's evil, clearly. And then this snake thing came out of him. Or came out he killed some people. And they sort of get all these bulges on them. And then I thought they were going to bulge and explode. And instead they just sort of bulge a bit and then just die. And it's like, oh, why did they bother bulging? And so then this sort of snake thing comes out of them, like the Master in I was going to say, The Enemy Within, Doctor Who, you know, the 8th Doctor film. And it looks pretty rubbish. I liked how it was reflected on the leather of the car seat when it appeared the second time. But, you know, it sort of snakes around people, but it doesn't, you know, shouldn't their clothes be getting, like, caught up a bit in it? You could see it was a CGI doll. I mean, you know, not that effects matter too much for a good story, but when the story is terrible, I have extra incentive to hate every other aspect. No, I'm just saying, if the story was brilliant, I wouldn't care about terrible effects so much. I mean, they're not terrible, but I just think when the story's terrible, you know, the writing's bad, it draws even more attention to the other bits not helping out either. You know, if the story's awful, but it looks brilliant, it's explosions and stuff, at least it's a bit of fun like that. It could be a fun action-y madness, but the story's terrible and it doesn't look that good. And I mean, for God's sake, 50-minute episodes. I'm guessing next one's going to be another sort of hour-long one. Hopefully no longer than an hour, because, you know, it's like 50 minutes, then 59, 49, and then about, you know, 57, and then this one's 50, so the next one's probably going to be at least an hour, I guess, but God, I hope it's not longer. I bet, like, the specials are, like, for 90 minutes. I'm bored and incredibly dull the whole way through. Yes, there was that bit where they went up to the mountain, Yasmin, Daniel, and the other guy, went up to this mountain, and there was some person with a load of flags, and then he said something, fetch a dog, right? What was that about? And then he said, and also he said like something like, "Oh, just kidding," twice on 2 occasions. He said something, and he says, "Oh, just kidding. I don't get many opportunities to kid people." Why? What's the point of a scene like that? What I don't even understand what was going on even after it's finished. Even now I think about it, I think, why did any of that happen? Honestly, was it supposed to be funny? Why did they climb all the way up there? He said that, and then what? And then was that? I think after that they went to the Great Wall of China thing. What was that about? I've no idea. It just seems stupid. I don't think they left it. I mean, it reminds me of Let's Kill Hitler. You know, that's a good sign. It's not. When it reminds me of Let's Kill Hitler, you know you've failed. I mean, for God's sake, this series was sort of flawed from the start because people are saying it's like Trial of a Time Lord. You know it's not going to be good if that's what you're saying. But when it had the message and the camera was, you know, panning away, it didn't leave it on there for long enough. I didn't actually read it. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I probably was starting to want to kill myself by then already. There was the other guy in the mine, you know, from episode 1. They were sort of, why is he being hopped around time? I know you might say, oh, it's a mystery, you're not supposed to know. Well, that's terrible. What happened to episode 5 of 6? I still don't understand the basic premise. I'm still not really sure quite what's actually going on at all. And we're 5/6 of the way through. The Flux, it turns out, was from this woman. Not sure what that's about. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of the shield of all these ships, the Carvanista ships, I suppose, stopping the Flux, getting to Earth, doesn't make any sense because they're all on one side of the planet, can't it? It's going from, like, through. Wouldn't it just like, it's not going to totally get stopped. It's like spanning all of space, or like millions of miles, so light years, I don't know. But it would get got by the shield, but it would go around it and get Earth anyway. I don't know. If they're all Carvanista ships, why have I only ever seen one Carvanista? I don't like him anyway, so I'm sort of glad about it though. Oh, and that stupid character Belle from episode 3, and then she was in 4, and then when she was in 4, you can tell it's Chibnall bits. Weeping Angel bits is like, that's. They were good, nice moments with Maxine Alderton, that was her name, the author of episode 4. And then it's like, Chibnall bits with Belle. And I was just thinking, damn, I wish she'd been killed in episode 3. That bit with the 10 Cybermen attacking her, all of them missing. And you just think, oh, for God's sake. And then in comes Mr. Nister, that's your first name, Carver. And and then you think, for God's sake, and I'm actually rooting for him to kill her. Shoot her, for God's sake, shoot her. And then he doesn't, he misses, they just miss over and over again. And then there's a bit of a shake on the ship for some reason. And then they just like start teaming up. I just think, no, I don't like any of these characters. The Doctor's just sort of standing around, unending bits of exposition. And when I say unending, I mean not literally, but just standing around talking about nonsense for a very long time. Doesn't make any sense. You just think, can't we ignore all of this rubbish? Why is she being tempted by the timeless child thing still? I thought we finished all that ages ago. The whole thing is a complete disaster. The bit with Kate Stewart, you think she's just there for the sake of fans know her. Otherwise, why would they bother? And then and at the very end, there's some timing sharp suddenly, and you think, oh, maybe this is going to be fun. And then, of course, then it ends. But they start running in the room, and immediately, where Yasmin and Daniel and the other guy are, and probably the minor guy, and immediately, he's not very old. No, hang on, with a hat. And immediately start shooting, and you just think it's like, like at the end of Doomsday, or Army of Ghosts, where the Daleks come out and they shout exterminate 4 times, and then Doomsday begins and no one's been killed and they haven't shot a single thing. It's like that, but there's some Tarvins were already firing, but of course then we get a shot of the people all looking shocked, like, some Tarvins, like Invasion of Time. Well, yeah, that's a good sign. Invasion of Time Part 6, isn't that brilliant? No, it's rubbish. And so it's like immediately, oh my god, they're firing, but there's no consequence. I don't feel like, oh no, they're firing. It's not like in the Crimson Hand cliffhanger where in the comic strip that is, where Magenta Price rips the Doctor out of reality and he's actually been destroyed, and you get to see him fully killed, and then spoilers, it turns out it was a teleport or something. But like in Magician's Apprentice, yes, it's just, or Death in Heaven. It's just rubbish because they're shot. You hear some shots, and then you see everyone looking shocked, and you just think, well, shouldn't they be like dead if they fire some shots? Just sometimes just fire all the time and miss all the time. Listen, Poison Sky, they actually managed to hit people a bit. And so, in conclusion, I don't care to talk about this for any longer. I probably could, but to be honest, the longer I talk, the longer it takes to flipping get the video ready to be uploaded. So, in conclusion, what was this one called? I don't care. It's Fibers of the Flights. Did I hate it? The thing is, it's Doctor Who, right? I love it. I've watched all the episodes many times. I've watched all the episodes, series 1 to 5, like, flipping 8 times. I can't bear to totally hate it because I've watched it all loads. But it comes down to, would I want to watch it again? Did I enjoy it and all that? Would I want to watch this one again? God, no. Skip through it a bit. It's like, you've got to have good set pieces, good moments where I think, oh, that was a fun moment. Just some fun dialogue. There's nothing. God. And then there's a fun bit and you think, well, the whole universe is at stake. Why is this happening? Anyway, so I don't know what was going on, really. I don't see how you could ever... I don't know. It's just rubbish. It's so predictable and yet it's so rubbish. Why does it have to keep jumping from place to place? I know you might say, oh, well, it's trying to be like time is messed up. It just means there's no consequence, there's no continuity, there's no meaning, there's just chaos and oblivion and darkness, death, destruction, the end of all things, good and evil. Anyway, so in conclusion, I think it could have been a lot better written. Certainly, last episode could have been slightly better written. Well, more than slightly. God. And the next episode, well, we'll see.